talk about developing guidelines for working together. Usually when I'm working with a group, whether it be a small group or a large group, and we're going to be spending a lot of time together, one of the things I like to do is talk about how we're going to work together as a group. This is really important in terms of setting sort of the ground rules around what's appropriate and not appropriate in your group, and how to support a positive working relationship in your group. You can also use this if conflict arises in your group as well. So, developing guidelines for working together is that you can use for a small group or a large group. I'm going to show you today how to do it, and I'll show you how to modify it depending on the size of your group. Really easy to do in terms of the tools that you need. All that you need are some flip chart paper, you need some large post-it notes, and you need a marker for everybody who's in your group. So we're going to demonstrate it for you today, and then I'll walk you through each of the steps and talk about how you can actually use it in practice. So let's actually take a look at the first step. The first step that we do in developing guidelines for working together is I ask everyone to think of a time when they've either been part of a group or worked on a team or attended a meeting. Once they've started to think about that, then I ask them to think of two questions. So I say, what made this experience positive for you? And also say, what did you like about how you work together? I ask everyone to take a look at those questions and answer them individually to start with. So everybody has a stack of post-it notes like this, and I ask them to take some time individually and respond to both of those questions, putting one answer per post-it note. So let's demonstrate that for you now. Everybody's had a chance to write down their individual responses. You're going to invite them to share their responses with the group. So depending if you have a small or large group, you'll do this a couple of ways. We have a very small group today. We have Summer and Anne-Marie who are going to share their responses with us. So we'll just do it together. If you have a really large group, so for example, I've done this with a group of 100 people. I've had them share their responses in tables, so tables of 6 or 8, and then join tables later to do it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after I show you what we're going to do. So once everyone has their individual responses, so Summer and Anne-Marie have a whole bunch of responses to those two questions that I asked about working in groups and teams, what was positive for them, what they liked about it. You're going to ask people to share, and usually I'll ask someone to share one response first. So I'll ask Anne-Marie to share one response first, and you can actually just post it on the wall. You'll see that we're going to do it visually so that people can see what the responses are. So why don't you pick one of yours and stick it up on the wall. So Anne-Marie put opportunity to offer ideas. What we're going to do is I'm actually getting the group to sort the ideas so that you don't have to do it as the facilitator. So then what I do is once Anne-Marie puts up something like this, so opportunity to offer ideas, I'll ask if anyone has a similar comment to that. And if they do, I'll invite them to come and put it with Anne-Marie's. Does anyone have a similar one to opportunity to offer ideas?
Hearing all voices.
Great, so why don't you stick that up there? So you see how we're starting to actually sort the responses together? So then I'll ask Summer to put in another response up, so to start a different category of responses. Oh, so Summer has fun on hers. Anne-Marie, do you have anything that would fit with fun? So relaxed atmosphere. So Anne-Marie, why don't you start another? Who's got another response they'd like to put up? At the end, I asked, there was one sort of sitting out on its own, so I asked if it fit anywhere else. It may not fit somewhere, but that was just sort of a point to see, does it fit anywhere? And I usually ask people then just to take a look to make sure everything's in the right category. So you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different categories. So people did individual responses. I had them actually sort and theme all by themselves on the wall, which really helps in terms of time. So with a small group, this works really quickly. So we have a group of 2, works really fast. If we have a group of 100, as I said though, you can have them work at their tables and do this at their table, then combine tables. So then they have another table come in and say, oh, do we have the same category? Start to sift and sort that way until finally you've brought all the tables together and you have one big wall of all of your guidelines for working together. So we started with individual responses where people put their stuff on the post-it notes, then we had them group them into categories. Now that we've got them into categories, what we want to do is find a name for each of our themes that we have. So what I would do then is I'd ask either if we have a small group, the group would do it together. If we have different tables, I'd have a table take each of the themes to talk about the theme. But what we're going to do now is actually talk about what we want to call each of our themes for our direction on the top. We know when we're working together that we always want to be clear around what's our direction as a group, that we're being productive, we're using our time well. That becomes one of our guidelines for working together, is that we always have a direction and we know where we're headed. So another of our guidelines will be ease of communication. And then what about our last one? So we've got engaged participants, members are enthusiastic, we learn from each other. What does that say about how we're going to work together?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm?
Teamwork too.
Ooh, nice. So if we call that one enthusiasm and teamwork. It doesn't really matter what you call your guidelines, as long as you know what they mean. So enthusiasm and teamwork, we know it means we've got engaged participants, people are enthusiastic, we're learning from each other. Ease of communication means we're hearing all voices, all ideas are considered. So as long as you know what it means. So usually when I'm writing them up, I'll put the title of what it is, but then I'll put all the answers that people had as well, because it gives you a sense of what people meant when they said, oh, our guideline is we want to work under direction, or it's a relaxed atmosphere, it's respect, it's ease of communication, and it's enthusiasm and teamwork. So it just gives you a sense of then what it actually means when you've written them up. So that's the next step in terms of develop your guidelines together. So we did the individual responses first on Post-its, then we themed them into groups. So you saw we had 5 different groups. Then we had, because we're such a small group, we had our little group work and develop what do they actually want to call each of their guidelines for working together. If you had a larger group and you had different tables working on it, then we'd share it with everyone so everyone had an opportunity to see what each of the guidelines were in terms of working together.